So I guess you have already decided what class you will be playing in Classic Fresh. If you haven't, then this guide might help you decide. However, what this guide is about is the talent trees you should choose when leveling up at max level, what hit rating you should focus on, and many other important things. I've made a timeline so you can easily skip to the class you're looking for. First off, starting with the warrior, you can level up as protection, fury, or arms. I always level up as arms at low level because with fury you're simply missing way too often, so you're not building too much rage, and as a protection warrior your killing speed isn't fast at all. So as an arms warrior, this will be the talent tree I'll be rolling with. This is of course at max level, but for those of you wondering what I pick between level 10 to 60, this is the talent tree. For those of you who would still like to level up as fury, this is the tree, and of course also the talent order. When you're leveling up, you would always like to make a macro that says equip your one-hand weapon and also your shield. So you can swap between this in case you need to activate your shield block or simply just increase your armor. And then you can drag your two-hand weapon down to your action bar, which allow you to quickly swap in between these two things. As a warrior, you would like to go for 9% hit in PvE and 5% hit in PvP. Hit is going to be so important or you'll miss way too often and therefore also generate next to no rage. You can play as all the different races, but I prefer to play human when I'm playing Alliance and Orc when I'm playing Horde. And this is because of the weapon specialization ratios. You can also get yourself Edge Masters or the Expert Gold Miner Helm to increase your weapon skills even further, but these items will also be expensive. As a warrior, you should get an add-on that indicates your swing timer, so the next time you're going to do an auto attack. This allows you to avoid a lot of damage, as you can use your hamstring, kite the monster, and the moment your auto swing is once again ready, you go back in and do some damage. So you simply just kite with hamstring and do this over and over. And the moment you have killed a target, and if you still have a decent amount of rage, then make sure to use your blood rage, followed by first aid. This allows you to keep you in combat to keep your rage, and you heal your character at the same time. When you accidentally pull a lot of monsters, you can also take advantage of hamstring. You just apply this to every single monster, and now your movement speed is way higher compared to theirs. And at level 30, when you unlock Berserker Stance and Intercept, then you can charge or will use Intercept in combat to get even more distance. What's also gonna be important is to get a ranged weapon, so you don't always have to body pull. And make sure never to charge in when there's more than one enemy, else you might accidentally body pull a lot of enemies. Next on the list is the Rogue, and this is my leveling build. Yeah, I always level as combat as I feel like it's way faster, but you could also be leveling as subtlety. So one of the biggest benefits of playing a combat rogue is that you don't have to open in stealth all the time. You can just run in, use the Sinister Strike, and slice and dice. And at around level 22, you will unlock Riposte. This will do a bit of damage, but also disarm the target for 6 seconds. Another big benefit of playing combat is that you will unlock the talent Blade Flurry. This you can activate, and now you will be able to kill 2 or 3 enemies at the same time. For those of you who would try to level up as subtlety, this is the talent tree, and it's honestly not bad as a leveling build because you can pretty much also do 50% of the target's health by opening with ambush, using a gouge, and then backstab. The reason for this is because of these two talents that improve your critical strike chance and also damage. And subtlety is amazing for a person who would like to play on a PvP server because you will be dominating many different classes when you can just open up with an ambush, and you get preparation to reset the cooldown of your major important abilities. Rogues are amazing and honestly such a fun class to play. You can control fights, whether it's gonna be PvP or PvE, you can always reset with advantage, and you have sprint and many other abilities to get away. When you're fighting a difficult target, make sure to make some distance, use your ranged weapon, and a gouge when the enemy is close to you. At some point you will then have 5 combo points for Kidney Shot. This is where you would like to burst, and before the stun ends, you would need to make some distance to proceed and do the exact same again. A good rogue will also know how to CC properly and be using add-ons like Omni CC or Big Debuff. This will indicate the duration of your CC, and on your action bar there will also be numbers indicating your cooldown. So like you can see here above the target portrait, there's now an icon with gouge and kidney shot. It's a lot easier for me to track my CCs this way. It's also the exact same if you, for example, ended up blinding someone or zapped a target. Just like the warrior, then you will need to get 5% hit in PvP and 9% hit in PvE. And there's a couple of ways to easily get 5% hit. If you have chosen to follow my rogue combat tree, you will also be getting 5% hit and a bit of expertise as well with sword, fist weapons and daggers. You can also get additional hit simply by getting the Devil Sword leggings and gauntlets, as there's a set bonus granting you 2% hit. By the time you reach max level, this is your combat tree for PvE. If you're planning to play with daggers, you could also swap a couple of talents and instead go with this build. Remember, you can also level up your cooking to grant yourself Festalties. These will restore 100% energy, not only good when you're going to level up, but also important at max level. So what race should we be picking? As a horde player that likes to PvP, go with Orc because of Blood Fury and Hardiness that reduces your chance of being stunned. So useful against warriors and of course also other rogues. For PvE I like to play Troll because of Berserkering, and regeneration is just amazing for when you're leveling up or farming gold. With that being said, then Undead isn't bad at all. Cannibalize useful when you're farming or just leveling up to restore health, and you also get the possibility to remove charm, fear and sleep effects. This is a 2 minutes cooldown, but it's so insane in PvP situations when you're for example fighting a Warlock or Priest. The reason for playing Alliance is that you can play as a human and benefit from sword specialization when playing combat. You also get Perception to increase your stealth detection. What you can also do is to play as a Night Elf, but I don't feel like the racial is any good at all. At least not when you're playing as a rogue. When it comes to PvP, gnomes are amazing because of Escape Artist, at least when fighting a mage, warrior or druid, as you can remove any immobilizing effects and also movement speed reductions. Stone form as a dwarf isn't bad, at least not when you're fighting other rogues, as you can become immune to bleed, poison and disease effects for 8 seconds. But overall I feel like human is the best choice. Alright, so finally it's time for those of you who would like to be playing a hunter. There's 2 decent builds for leveling up quickly, and the one that I prefer is Beast Mastery. Why I prefer this build is because your pet will be so insane. It will deal a high amount of damage, have more survivability, and allow the hunter to easily solo different quests that requires a party. For example, different elite targets. You can also level up as a marksman hunter. Here the hunter will do more damage and the pet less damage. But this can also be risky, as you do a lot more threat. So sometimes you might also be the one that will be tanking the enemy. Therefore, I usually just stick to Beastmaster, also because you get improved aspect of the cheater. So this way you will be able to travel around even faster before you get your mount. So what is the best race to choose? Well, as a horde player there's 3 different options, but only 2 of these are good. It is to either play Troll or Orc. As an Orc you get Blood Fury that increases your attack power, you get increased damage with your pet, and you also get Hardiness. As a Troll, you get Berserkering, increased regeneration, and also increased bow skill. In my opinion, Troll are the best if you plan to mainly just be playing PvE. For a PvP situation, Orc can in some cases be better. As an Alliance, there's 2 different choices, either to play Dwarf or Night Elf. Night Elves get Shadow Meld. This can be useful right after a feign death, but also if you sit down to drink and eat, and you don't wish to pull a nearby enemy. Dwarves get Stone Form and also increase skills with their gun. So if you for example level engineering and you craft your own guns, then you will also benefit from this racial. In my opinion, Night Elf's Shadow Meld is just way too overpowered, no matter if you plan to PvP or PvE, and that's why I would any day choose to play this race. The amount of hit you'll need in PvE is 9%, in PvP 5%, and there's many ways to easily get this. So what you can do first is simply just to acquire your Sewer Feuded talent. This can be found in the survival tree, and by following my level 60 talent, you'll be getting this no matter what. You can also get the scope. It's from Molten Core, and it increases your chance to hit by 3%. You can also get an additional 2 by getting the Devil Sword gauntlets and leggings. and you can also get yourself a weapon, Warmonger, to increase your hit by additional 3%. So I guess it isn't really going to be a big problem as a hunter. When you're leveling up, one of your main priorities is also to get yourself a new ranged weapon. Even wide weapons will usually be a big upgrade when there's nothing on the auction house. All over the place there will be different locations where you can purchase yourself a new weapon, and there's even an amazing add-on for this. I will show you this add-on in my add-on guide, and you can find this in the description below this video. In the beginning you will have no slow and you will have no pit, which is why you always need to make some distance and continue to shoot. If you don't do this, well, then you will constantly be in melee range and you won't be able to use your ranged weapon and therefore also do next to no damage. So prior to getting your pit or your concussive shot, continue to make distance and run away and shoot. By the time you reach level 10, everything will be a lot easier the moment you have got yourself a pet. When you get yourself a new melee weapon, your weapon skills might also be low. This is where Wing Clip is amazing, as it's an instant ability with no cooldown. So you can spam this to quickly also level up your weapon skills. Remember, Eyes of the Beast is also so useful when you have to pull an enemy without having to go in and kill all the different things. What I do in this situation is to find the target I need to kill. The moment I've found it, I'll attack it and drag it back to the position of my hunter. As I'm dragging it back, I'll continue to attack to make sure it's not evading. And by the time it's at a good position, I'll then continue to kill it on my hunter. Finally, it's time for the Mage. This is my talent tree at level 60, at least for the first couple of phases, when there's going to be Blackwing Lair, Molten Core and Onyxia's Lair. This is because you don't want to play as a Fire Mage when these enemies are immune to fire damage, or at least taking a lot lower damage. This is the talent order, and I'll also be choosing this as I'm leveling up the character. But then again, single target leveling isn't that fast, which is why I always prefer to level up as an AoE Mage. When I level up as an AoE Mage, I'll be following this build and the talent order right here. The best race has to be Gnome, at least as an Alliance player. Expansive Mind is amazing no matter what build you're playing, and also good in PvP and PvE. And you of course also get escape artist, so you can get away from a sticky situation. Human racials isn't really that good. I mean, weapon specializations won't benefit you at all. What we are talking about as a good thing is of course diplomacy that increases your reputation gained by 10%. As a horde that likes to only PvP, make sure to roll undead. If you mainly just prefer to PvE, roll troll because of berserkering that will increase your casting speed for 10 seconds by 10 to 30%. The maximum amount of hit you will need is close to 16%. It will be pretty difficult to obtain in the beginning, but with the talent Elemental Precision, you will at least be getting 6% hit with fire and frost spells. At a fresh launch, it can be difficult to acquire yourself a wand on the auction house, but you can purchase these in different main cities: Stormwind City, Ironforge, Orgrimmar, and Undercity. And getting a wand early on will be important for your mana efficiency, as you can be dealing damage with the wand as you're regening mana. As a mage, you have an amazing possibility to just kill one specific target. If you pull with either Blizzard or Flame Strike, all of these are not really linked together. So as long as you continue to attack Skull and you don't attack the other enemies, they will start to evade. And this allows you to drag away the enemy until you feel like you're at a safe position to finish it off. As a mage, you can create your own water. But when you reach level 5, 15, 25 and so on, then you will not be able to create this new water. Therefore, I usually purchase it at the vendor for a couple of levels before I can go to the trainer and learn this. This is because the water that I can conjure is only going to be level 5, so it's going to be a lot worse compared to the vendor water. So I usually do this for a couple of levels before I can go to the trainer and learn the new rank of conjure water. There's nothing better than a mage that actually CCs in dungeons and raids. This is why I'm always using Omni CC and big debuffs. These two add-ons allow you to easily track your CC above the target nameplates. These will be displayed with the CC icon and also the remaining time in seconds. Paladins are often brought to raids as a healer, but remember, we are also getting Burning Crusade in 1 year. Therefore, it could be a good decision to level up a character like this, even though you'll be forced to heal, because in Burning Crusade you can play as DPS, healer or tank. When I'm leveling up, I always do this as retribution, as it's going to be the quickest way to get to 60. You could of course also try to tank or heal, but it's not going to be efficient in any way, unless you would of course like to practice healing before you have to do this at max level. Sometimes I also like to spend my first points into the Holy Tree to unlock Consecration. This allows me to then be killing more than 3 enemies at the same time as I do some decent AoE damage, and all remaining points will then be spent into the Retribution tree. When it comes to the faction, you can only play as Alliance, and you have 2 options to play as Dwarf or Human. The benefit of choosing Human is that you will be getting 10% increased reputation, 5% more spirit, and sword and mace specialization, just in case you are lucky enough to be raiding as a Retribution Paladin. As Dwarf, you'll benefit from Stone Form in some PvE situations, and in PvP it's useful, but overall I feel like Human is just a bit better. Finding treasures is of course not bad for gold making, but then again I guess gold won't really be a big problem for you. At least not when you reach level 40, because your level 40 mount will be completely free. All the gold you end up saving, you could then be spending on purchasing items to increase your leveling speed, for example new weapons. But you could also keep all this gold on a bank character and start investing. When everyone else needs to spend their gold on purchasing mounts, you can then be purchasing many different materials for next to nothing, and eventually be making a profit of anywhere between 5 to 10 times. All the different things I will be investing into myself I've also covered in my fresh gold making guide, which you can find in the description below this video. Playing as a max level druid in Classic is usually where you will be forced to heal, if you wish to raid. But in some situations you might also be lucky enough to join as a feral DPS or feral cat. If you wish to tank, you will be swapping these 2 talents around. If you wish to DPS, you would not like to do any changes to the talent tree and just follow the talent order right here. But leveling as a feral is so insane, especially in the beginning at around level 20 and 21 when you can pick up feline swiftness. This allows you to travel around even quicker in your cat form, and a big benefit of playing this specialization is that you don't constantly have to sit down to drink and get some mana. This is one of the big issues as a balance, which is why I usually never level up like this. You could start doing it at around level 40 when you unlock your Moonkin form and have some more intellect gear and spirit items, but in the beginning stick to feral for more efficient leveling. The good thing is that it's going to be easy for you to decide your race, because as a Horde player you can only play as Tauren, and as an Alliance, Night Elf. So it all comes down to where your friends will be playing or what look you prefer the most. When you're leveling up, you should make sure you get at least Entangling Roots rank 1. Yeah, you don't really need more than rank 1, and then First Aid. The moment you are low on health and low on mana, you could then root a target and use First Aid to heal. You can spam your root until you have a decent enough mana to either start doing DPS as a Moonkin or go back into your cat or bear form. Usually you will not be doing this trick quite often, unless you're of course fighting a difficult elite. To save yourself a lot of gold, you also don't have to train each individual spell. Yeah, sometimes rank 1, but you don't need to follow up on other ranks, such as Hurricane. I mean, why continue to upgrade all these balance skills if you're just leveling up as a feral? It's going to be waste of gold that you could spend towards getting your level 40 or 60 mount. Make sure to keep a weapon with a lot of spirit in your inventory. The moment you have to cast Innovate, you would then like to equip this to reach an even more mana. When you have got yourself enough mana, you then swap back to your original weapon. And for those of you playing a Night Elf, you can cast all your HUDs on your tank, use water and turn into Shadow Meld. While you're Shadow Melded, you will continue to heal with your HUDs and you're not generating any threat. Finally, it's time for me to cover the Warlock, an insane class that can level up so easily and benefit from many different things. So what is the easiest and safest way to level up a Warlock? It is definitely to play Affliction. This is where you fear the target, apply dots, drain its life, and you reapply a new fear. This allows the Warlock to easily solo many different elite quests because the target will constantly be feared. And with this talent build, you will also benefit from your Drain Soul. Just make sure always to do this when you kill the target, so you increase your mana regeneration by 100% for 10 seconds. So when you reach level 40, you can spend more points into the Affliction tree or maybe Demonology. What I usually go with is a build like this all the way up to 60, and the talent choice in each order will be shown right here. However, the most important thing is just to make sure you spend the first 30 points into Affliction, and then you can just play around with whatever talents you would like to choose. Another decent option is to play as Demonology. This is where you will mainly focus on doing a lot of damage with your pet and just casting Shadow Balls and other abilities as the pet is tanking. I usually spend my first 5 points into the Affliction tree to get instant corruption. But if you plan just to play as Demonology, well, then you will also be able to spend your first 5 points into Demonic Embrace. You have 2 different races you can choose as Horde, Undead or Orc. I usually go with Orc because of hardiness and because I like to PvP. Command isn't a big deal. As Undead you get Will of Forsaken. This can sometimes be useful in PvE situations, Underwater Briefing for when you're questing, Cannibalize, yeah, also for PvP, but also when leveling up. So if I had to only focus on leveling, I would probably roll Undead. At max level, I like to play as Orc. As Alliance you can choose between Gnome and Human. I don't really like Human a lot. I mean, Perception can sometimes be useful in PvP, but the Human Spirit isn't really that great. Escape Artist and Expansive Mind will benefit you a bit in PvE and PvP. Of course, it's not a major thing, but if I had to look at what I would prefer to play, then it has to be Gnome. There's nothing more annoying than fearing a target and it accidentally chain pull many others and causing you or your party to wipe. This can easily be fixed with different curses. If you apply Curse of Recklessness, then the target will still have the fear effect, but it will no longer be fleeing. In fact, it will start running towards you and even be able to attack you with its melee abilities. But look what happens the moment I swap to another curse. Now the target will instantly be feared, because the fear effect is still on the target. So this way you can easily control the feared target as a Warlock. You just swap between Curse of Recklessness and another curse. As a Warlock, you have many different abilities, for example damage over time effects. But instead of having every single of these at your action bar, then you can just make one macro and press one click to apply all the dots. So how this works is that you make a new macro with /cast sequence. Next up, you add in the spells that you would like to cast. For example, all the different damage over time effects. What I would also highly recommend you to do is to remove the spell rank. This way, whenever you get a new rank, the macro will continue to work. So pay attention to my action bar. There's only going to be one spell right now, but the moment I cast this, it will also swap to the next spell that I add into the macro. This allows me to dot up a target just by pressing one keybind. I would still recommend you to have all the abilities on your action bar, but when you just need to speed level or add dots to many targets, then having a macro like this is super useful. What will also be useful is your first AoE. When you pull all creatures with this, they are not linked together. Or well, you can continue to attack Skull, and without attacking the other enemies, they will start to flee and evade. Then you can continue to attack Skull until this will be dragged away from everything else, and you can finish it off. The Proficient First Aid is so underrated as a Warlock, but what you can do is, for example, to life tap until you're low on health. Then you can use a bandage to gain health, and once again use life tap, or maybe even drain life. When you perform this combo, it's important that your pet is also the one with the highest threat, else the enemy will instantly run to you and cancel your bandage. And one of the biggest benefits of choosing a Warlock is that your level 40 mount will be free. All this gold you can then be investing into things that will make you a huge profit. We're probably talking about 2 or 3 weeks later, when most items will be 2 to 4 times as expensive. All my investments I'll have in my gold making guide that I talked about in the Paladin section as well, because Paladins also get a free mount. Next on this list is the Priest. What an amazing healer in Classic, and also so insane in PvP when playing as a Shadow Priest. And talking about a Shadow Priest, this is also how I always level up. There's no doubt it's going to be the quickest way to max level. Just remember to also at least spend 5 points into the Discipline tree to increase the damage done by your wands. Yeah, you would like to do this immediately without even spending points into the Shadow tree, and this is because a lot of your damage will simply be from your wand. By the time you get to 40, you could always respec and spend all your points into Shadow to unlock Shadow form. But in my case, I simply prefer just to stick to the current talent and build up some more points into the Shadow tree. However, if you would much rather like to have Shadow form at level 40, then your talent order should be like this up to 40 and continuing to max level. When it comes to leveling as Holy or Discipline, nah, it's not worth it. The leveling speed is not going to be quick at all. Just wait until you get to level 60 to try out these specializations. As a priest, you also get race specific spells. Yeah, this is correct. As a dwarf, you for example get Desperate Prayer and Fear Ward. And as an alliance, this has to be the best possible race for you. Instant healing, but also Fear Ward to be immune to fear for 10 minutes. And you can cast this on all your party members as it only has a 30 seconds cooldown. Not only good in PvP, but also when you're going to do a Nyxa's Lair and there's going to be the fear mechanic. As a human, you also get Desperate Prayer and Feedback. This will drain a bit of the target's mana when they're casting at you. Nothing insane, at least not if we compare it to Fear Ward. As a Night Elf, you get Star Shards, a spell you can channel to do a bit of damage, and a Loon's Grace, a defensive to reduce your range damage taken and increase your dodge. Both spells are not really that great. Star Shards you often won't be using because it's the channel effect, and a Loon's Grace, yeah, you would much rather like to have Fear Ward. As Troll you get Hex of Weakness, a debuff you can cast on a target, and Shadow Guard it works pretty much the same as a Shaman's Elemental Shield. As an Undead you will benefit a lot from Devouring Plague, at least if you plan to play as Shadow Priest, as you will have yet another dot. Touch of Weakness is a debuff that will be applied whenever someone hits you. Not that great, at least not compared to Devouring Plague. But what we also gotta remember is that if you decide to roll a Troll, you will also benefit from the Racial, Regeneration and Berserkering. This is insane as for example a healer, but if you're about to just enjoy PvP, I would any day roll an Undead. Because wands will be so important for your leveling journey, I would also recommend you to go with tailoring and enchanting. All the green items you can equip and also disenchant, and the disenchanting materials you can then use to craft a lesser or greater magic wand. This will mainly benefit you at the launch day. If you're watching this video after the release, well then you could probably just purchase the wands on the auction house for next to nothing and save your gold and time and wait with leveling up professions until your max level. Whenever you get a new wand, then it might also be tempting to either disenchant or sell the old one. But I would highly recommend you not to do this. Some type of enemies will also be immune to some type of spells. For example, a wand can have fire damage, so if the target is immune to fire spells, then you will also do no damage. Therefore, it will be useful to be able to swap to an old wand with for example frost damage. So you might have tried this before. You spam your shoot ability, or well, your wand, because you would like to kill the target fast. But what you will also notice is that it will be next to impossible to start shooting. This we can easily fix with a macro. So what you will need to do is just to type /cast !shoot. This allows you to spam this macro. Of course you need to drag it down through your action bar, but what will also happen now is that you can spam this ability without interrupting or stopping the wand. The last class on this list is the Shaman. If you wish to do endgame content, be prepared, because you'll most likely be forced to heal, as the other two specializations isn't really that great. So when I need to level up, there's two different talent trees that I like to use. The first one, where you mainly spend your points into the enhancement tree, and later on you can either spend the remaining points into elemental or restoration. One of the main reasons why I prefer to level as an enhancement shaman is because you will not need to spend as much time drinking after 1 or 2 monsters. Some of you might also be wondering why I spent the first 5 points into increasing my block. This is because as a shaman, you will be using a fast one-hand weapon and a shield for a long time. I know that you can learn how to use a 2-hand axe and a mace at level 20, but this will also require you to get a blue weapon. Else it will be way better just to use a one-hand weapon and a shield, so you get more armor and also a chance to block any incoming attacks. One thing you also gotta remember is that when you pick this talent, then you will also need to level up your weapon skills. These weapon skills will start at level 1, but an easy way to level up even quicker is to make sure you get a fast 2-hand weapon. In the beginning you will miss your attacks anyway, so it doesn't really matter the damage it does, because you will miss your attacks. Therefore, you will also benefit way more by choosing a fast two-hand weapon. Your second option would be to level as an elemental shaman. So this is where you will be using your lightning bolt, chain lightning and shocks to do ranged damage. After reaching level 40 and unlocking your elemental mastery, then as you continue to level up, you can spend the remaining points into the restoration tree. In the restoration tree, you will reduce the mana cost of your totems, increase their performance, and also increase your critical strike chance of your healing and lightning spells. When you get to level 60, your guild might kindly ask you to respec into resto. If so, go with this build to start healing in 5-man dungeons and eventually raids. If I had to choose a race myself, as a PvP player, I would any day roll an orc because of hardiness. If you plan to play enhancement at 60, you'll benefit from Blood Fury and Axe specialization. However, if you mainly plan to be playing elemental or restoration, go for troll. Berserkering are insane, and regeneration will also help you a bit. I don't feel like you'll benefit a lot from the Tauren ratios, beside if you were about to play on a hardcore server, because you can use War Stomp into a healing or Ghost Wolf to run away. What we also gotta remember is that you have different kind of spell ranks. So let's say you're for example low on mana and you need to kite away, well then you can always just use a rank 1 Frost Shock. The reason why we will be able to kite for a long time is because of the slow effect, not the damage. So there's no reason to use the highest rank, as this will also require you to spend a lot more mana. This will also give you more time to wait for an important cooldown, maybe even a potion. One thing you can also combine together with this kiting is an Earthbind totem and a Searing. So if your Frost Shock is resisted, well then your Earthbind will apply a slow. So just make sure to kite around these two totems. Another thing I like to do when I need to kite is to make sure I equip a one-hand weapon and a shield as fast as possible. A shield grants you more armor, and more armor equals less physical damage, but also a chance for you to block any incoming attacks. So I guess some of you might also be wondering how I easily swap between my one-hand weapon and shield and my two-hand weapon. All you need to do is to make a new macro where you type /equip and then the name of your one-hand weapon, and in the second line /equip and the name of your shield. And your two-hand weapon you can just drag down to your action bar. All you'll need to do now is just to keybind these two things so you don't have to click as you're running away. If you would like to see more fresh classic videos anytime soon, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you get notified when I post these. It will be leveling guides, gold making, tips and tricks, yeah, the list goes on and on. As always, thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day. Peace.